All right, let's get into it. We're going to unpack something that's at the very core of Canadian democracy. It's this constant push and pull, this balancing act between your personal rights, the power of the government, and this whole idea of liberalism. And what we really mean by that is a society that's supposed to be built on freedom and equality, where the government can't just do whatever it wants. So, to kick things off, let's jump right into a scenario. It's a simple question on the surface, but the answer, it's pretty complicated. The question is this: what are your rights, really? And more importantly, when is it okay for someone to limit them?
Okay, so imagine this. You're at school, and a valuable school laptop suddenly goes missing. The principal, not messing around, decides to lock down the entire school and announces they're going to search every single locker, yours included. So what's your first thought? And that's the big question, right? Is this even legal? Does this kind of search violate your rights? I mean, where does the school's power end and your personal right to privacy begin? You might think the answer is simple, but it's really not.
Believe it or not, in Canada, the courts have generally sided with the schools on this one. But, and this is a big but, there are limits. The search has to be reasonable. They can't just do it on a whim. There needs to be a real reason. And this one little scenario, it's a perfect snapshot of the fundamental tension in a liberal democracy, balancing individual freedoms against what's good for the whole group. Okay, so let's scale that idea up. Let's go from a school hallway all the way to the highest levels of government. Because up there, you're going to find some folks with a ton of power, people you never, ever get to cast a vote for. For instance, meet the Governor General. This is the Queen's representative in Canada, and they hold some serious power, like the power to dissolve Parliament. Yet you and I, we never get a say in who gets that job. So how does that work? How is that even possible in a democracy? And this really gets to the heart of the debate. On one hand, people argue the whole office is just an expensive, outdated relic from another time. On the other hand, some say it's an absolutely vital, non-political anchor for our entire constitutional system. There are really strong arguments on both sides. And hey, the Governor General isn't alone in this. There's another major part of our government that's unelected. Yep, I'm talking about the Senate. So the whole idea behind the Senate was for it to be a place of sober second thought, a way to double-check the laws passed by the elected folks in the House of Commons. But here's the criticism. Many people feel it's just become a place where prime ministers appoint their friends, who then vote along party lines. I mean, they can serve until they're 75, and they never ever have to face you, the voter, in an election. That raises a lot of questions about accountability. Okay, so if we have these powerful, unelected officials, what's stopping the whole system from going off the rails? What's the firewall that prevents the government from having way too much power? What actually protects your freedom? Well, this is it. This is the big one, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Think of it as our country's rights playbook. It's the ultimate defense against the power of the government. And let's be clear, this is way more than just a piece of paper. The Charter, which became part of our Constitution back in 1982, is a powerful tool. It's something you, as a citizen, can actually use to challenge the government in court if you think a law infringes on your rights. But here's a crucial thing to remember. Rights aren't just handed out. They are fought for, they are won. Just look at this timeline for the right to vote in Canada. It's been a long, hard road, stretching from a time when only wealthy men could vote all the way to today. It's a powerful reminder that pretty much every right we take for granted was won through struggle. But even with the Charter, it's not like everything is suddenly simple. It's not a magic wand. Really, it's just the starting point for a constant, high-stakes balancing act. And this isn't just theory. It plays out in our courtrooms every single day. And at the heart of this balancing act is often this fundamental conflict: individual rights versus collective rights. So the freedoms guaranteed to every single person, like freedom of speech, versus the rights of a specific group to protect their culture or identity, like language rights. What happens when those two things collide? Let's look at a real-world example. Back in 2004, healthcare workers in British Columbia went on strike. The government's response was pretty drastic. They passed a law that basically just ignored the union agreements that were already in place. Well, the unions didn't take that lying down. They fought back, taking their case all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada. And you know what? They won. The court made a landmark ruling saying that freedom of association in the Charter actually protects a process of collective action. In other words, it protects the right to unionize and bargain. This was a massive win for collective rights. And you can see why this is so important, especially for minority groups. This quote from France Levasseur-Umit really hits home. She points out that for Franco-Albertans, governments don't always respect their rights. Without the courts and the charter as a backstop, she says, their culture could have just disappeared. For them, it's the last line of defense. But again, this balancing act is never simple. Take Quebec, for example, where laws designed to protect the French language are seen as essential for the common good. But these laws can also limit an individual's freedom of expression, like what language they can put on their store sign. So a collective right bumps right up against an individual one. It's a tough call. And this balancing act doesn't just apply to current issues. It goes way back. Look at the Sparrow case from 1990. This was a huge deal. The Supreme Court ruled that the Musqueam First Nations Aboriginal right to fish, a right that existed long before Canada was even a country, is protected by the Constitution. And not just protected, but it takes priority over other government regulations, a truly landmark decision. So as you can see, this isn't just some abstract legal debate. This Great Balancing Act is right at the center of some of the biggest, most complex challenges we're facing as a country today. I mean, just consider the situation for the Inuit in the Arctic. Their entire way of life is being threatened by climate change. We're talking melting permafrost, thinning ice. Their world is literally changing under their feet, and it's happening because of actions taken thousands of miles away. And as Inuit leader Sheila Watt-Cloutier puts it so powerfully, people worry about polar bears going extinct, but the Inuit face extinction for the same reason. She and others are arguing that this isn't just an environmental problem, it's a human rights problem. That the destruction of their environment is a violation of their fundamental rights to life, to health, and to their culture. And that leaves us with a really big, pressing question. Is the way we've defined rights in the 20th century, is it enough to protect us from the huge global challenges of the 21st? Should the right to a healthy environment be considered a fundamental human right? That's the next big test for Canada's Great Balancing Act. And really, it's a question for all of us to think about.